Hello, Editing Irene here. Hi, friends. I wanted to give you a warning for this video really quick. This video is a repost. I think it's from October of 2017. It was originally on my first channel, but that channel is now gone. And I thought this was a poignant video to make because everything in it is still valid. I have to give you a warning that it does discuss child abuse and domestic violence. If you're triggered by those topics, you can pass by. You don't have to force yourself to watch it on my behalf. But I wanted to let you know straight up what you're going to be in for. There's no visuals. It's just me standing and telling a story, but it's a real story. True experiences that I have had. And I'm sharing it again because on this new channel, I really feel like I want to share who I am, my experiences, and real life. And it will give you a hint into who I am and why I am the way I am, maybe. So I just wanted to give you that warning. So let's get to it. And yeah.
One night, when I was 9 years old, I held a chef's knife to my stepfather's throat while he slept. This is my story on what it's like to live with domestic violence. My mother met my stepfather when I was, I think, about 7. I don't remember the exact dates, but I believe I was 7 years old. And in the beginning, he was a charming man. He had a license and a car, so it was the first time I had been regularly driving around with someone, in a car. My mother didn't really have one. And he'd take us fishing. We'd go to Red Lobster down on Queens Boulevard. We lived life. We lived life in New York City, and we traveled around and did different things, and it was cool. We go to barbecues, things we didn't do before he came. After a while, I started realizing that things were not so hunky-dory. I remember the first time I heard my mother screaming in the bedroom. The sound of the belt hitting her skin, that snap, that cracking sound was horrendous, and I didn't understand what that was about. I was a pretty good kid. At that time, I'd never really gotten beaten before because I never did anything wrong. I was little. I liked being home. I liked spending time with my mother at that time, and it was a good life. So I didn't understand why my mother was being beaten. Eventually, it became a constant situation. I became frightened to go home. You know, home is supposed to be your safe space. It's supposed to be where you go to be comforted and loved. And I was too concerned with the fact that, is my mother gonna get beat today? Am I gonna get beat today? And I don't know why. I don't know why he did the things he did. I don't know why he was so angry and violent. He would hit us with anything he could find. Usually it was one of his belts, but sometimes it was whatever was closest. I remember one day near Christmas time where I got hit with part of the Christmas tree limb. He'd hit us with his hands, smack across the face, usually pulled my pants down and whooped me with his hands, which was it's really uncomfortable. Forget the pain of being hit, but when you have someone not related to you, like spanking you on your buttocks, it feels wrong, it feels bad, it feels shameful. It's hard to explain. So it came to a point where I didn't want to go home because I was scared. And being scared to go home I can't explain how terrible it is to be afraid to go home. It's like you have no safe place to be. One time when my mother was not there. I was home from school. I went home by myself. I was a latchkey kid, and he came home early. I was outside, and I wasn't supposed to be outside. I admit that, but I was outside in front of my house because one of the few friends I had came and wanted to borrow some playing cards. I had them wrapped in rubber bands, and I had saved them. I'd saved them in some rubber bands. So I threw them out the window to my friend who wanted to borrow them. Unfortunately, when I threw them, they hit the ground and they were everywhere. So I was like, okay, let me just go down and help you pick them up. I was downstairs helping to pick these cards up. My stepfather comes home and he sees me outside and he's irate that I'm outside. He didn't even have to tell me to get upstairs. I saw him, I saw his face, and I just knew that I was in for it. And I was in for a very bad night. And when we got upstairs, before my mother even came home, he grabbed a 2x4 that had been cut because he was doing some work on the apartment, and he swung it at me, and it hit, I remember, the back of my legs, like the top of my buttock, the bottom of my buttocks, the top of my hamstrings, at the back of my legs. And I just went down and I started crying and screaming, and he punched me, and he was saying, I told you not to go outside. You're not supposed to be outside. You're not supposed to be outside. And all I could do was cry. I couldn't even scream. All I could do at that moment was cry. And I just, at that point, remember thinking, why, Mommy, why did you bring this evil, horrible person into our lives? Why would you bring this hateful, evil man? This was not how we were supposed to be living. One night, I don't remember what time of year it was, but I remember I had had enough. I was around 9 years old, and the situation had been going on for at least a year at this point. And my mother was in the room, again, screaming, and I was in my bedroom, and I was on my bed. I had my ears closed tight, and I was just like rocking in the bed and wishing it would stop, and I couldn't take it another second. I jumped out of the bed, I threw open the door, I ran down the hall halfway, and I just screamed, stop, I can't take it anymore, please stop hitting us. And then I heard it stop, and then I heard footsteps, and I ran back into my room, and he came in there with fury and said, do you want this? And he had the belt in his hand, and he said, do you want this? And I'm just like, I don't want you here. I didn't want to be in the situation that I was in, stuck in a house that was just the most terrifying thing you could imagine. This was my horror story. This was my horror story. That was the night I started drinking. I remember very specifically going and sneaking into the kitchen and opening up the fridge and seeing his bottle, his 40 ounce of Colt 45 that was in there in the fridge, and I had a taste, I had a sip, and I remember feeling swirly, like my head was a little swimmy, and for a little while I didn't feel anything. I went to bed and I got up the next day and I slept really well. It was the first time I'd slept well in a long time. And I was like, wow, that stuff really worked. It really helped me not to feel the pain and the fear that I felt every night. That became a habit. I started drinking, and I became really close to being addicted to drinking that beer on a regular basis, to the point where he started to see that, hey, my beer is disappearing. I started marking it with some marker or whatever, where he was had last finished it, and I would go drink some, remark it, Eventually, he figured it out, and you can imagine what happened next. And that night that he discovered that I was drinking his beer, after I had to pay the price and he went to bed, I had so had enough. I know that night I screamed a lot and loud for the beating that I got. It was terrifying, and I remember I screamed for my mother to make it stop, and she just didn't do anything. She just ignored my pleas. I don't know, around 1 o'clock in the morning, I got up to go to the bathroom, and I don't know what it was. Something in my head told me that I could end all of it, that I could end him, and that I was just a kid and I wouldn't get into trouble. I thought I could kill him. I said I could kill him and it'd be okay. They'd take me away for a little while, but I'd be somewhere else and I wouldn't have to get hurt anymore. And then my mother wouldn't have to get hurt anymore, and we'd be saved, and I could save us. So I took a chef's knife out of the drawer and I snuck into the room. I knew they were asleep because I could hear the snoring, and I snuck into the room and I took that chef's knife and I held it to his throat. All it would have taken was a flicker of the knife right into his neck, and I could have ended all of the pain. I could have saved us. But it wasn't in me. Some short time later, my mother sent me for the summer, live with my aunt and uncle, and oh man, let me tell you, that was something. My aunt she is still my angel. She did everything she could to help me out. She did more for me than anyone has ever done for me prior to that time. And I love that woman. She has a special place in my heart. She always will. But eventually I had to go back. And when I went back, it was like I had forgotten what I was in. I went back thinking, hey, I'm gonna have a normal life. But he was still there and everything stayed the same. Sadly, the whole thing repeated itself for another 3 or so years. It wasn't until I was 13 that my mother had decided that she'd had enough. And we moved out of the house with him, and we found a new place to live on our own, just the two of us. It was weird not having him in the house because after a while, it becomes normal. The abuse becomes normalized, and that was just what the life we had. Because of what happened and because of the pain and suffering I went through physically and emotionally, I really was messed up as a young adult. As a teenager, young adult, I was pretty messed up. I would go to school drunk already, 8 a.m. because I couldn't handle what I was feeling inside. When you witness someone that you love and care about being hurt, and there is nothing you can do about it, it is incredibly painful because you want to be the savior of the people that you love. And when you can't, it makes you feel pretty useless. And domestic violence is not just about the physical. Broken bones heal. The bruises I had on my ass and my back and my legs, they all healed. The bruises you have to really worry about are those that are up here.
So that's it. That's the story in a nutshell. I know it's kind of an intense video and it talks about unpleasant things, but I think in life we have to accept that life is difficult, life has challenges, and there's nothing wrong with talking about them. I am actually really fine now. At the time I made that video, talking about it still got me emotional. It doesn't anymore. Like I said, it's from 2017, so you're talking about almost 9 years ago. And so I'm in a much better place when I talk about those things now. But if you appreciated this video, like learning more about me and my experiences, hit the like button. If you want to see more, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next week. Peace out.